Hey guys, it's Matt. It is time to ask the biggest of questions, and I've never, I guess I've hinted at it, but I've never put it out. Just asking for the comment section of this video to be all about this biggest of questions. I've never seen it in any other video in our community, and the question is, would you go back from where we are today? Would you go back? And the answer is not as simple as you would think. Um, if you are getting yourself into a place where you need to be, using this existence for what it's here for, the answer to me is absolutely not. Would I go back? So let me just go back and give a little bit more detail. The question would be, if you could, and you were all powerful in this snow globe and could reset, probably are outside of here, but you could reset the world and go back to the summer of 2019, before any of this stuff started. But going back, it would never come. Okay, we obviously we, the same controlling parasite that's always been here will be here. There'll be continuous red, yellow, and terror alerts and bullcrap events on the news and all the stuff we've had to put up with, of course. But going back and resetting this would not have occurred. Now, in saying that, you would agree to lose all the knowledge that you've gained in terms of, how reality itself works, what this existence is for from your perspective, learning about yourself. You would go back to the level of knowledge that existed, say, in the summer of 2019. So you'd still know all about the fake events, how most everything presented as a deception. You would have filled out the 7-Eleven job application, know all about that. But that you'd go back to that level of understanding, and then this would never happen, never come. They would continue to play their games and their tricks and their deception on the level in which they had been playing it. Not that that was any good, but this is a whole new level on steroids to the nth power, of course. A whole new level of moving humanity as a collective down, not one little step closer to the abyss, like a giant leap down towards the abyss. And it seems like an easy, this is what the comment section should be about. And I'll try to keep the comment section on point and cleaned up as much as possible. This is just too important. Too important. Somebody's like, Matt, was this a Mandela effect for you? I'm not. We're going to delete those comments. This is, every so many months, I'm like, the comment section, this is what it's for. So now, even with that said, there'll be comments all over the board. But whatever. I'm going to try to keep it as cleaned up as much as possible, where people would say, I would go back or I wouldn't. So it's not as easy as people are like, well, of course we'd go back. No, it's not that simple. It is not that simple. I'm telling people, when I send out the PDF book, well, I try to tell this people as much as possible that I'm continuing to do updates. I'll just say it now, talk for a minute. The findings, the basic findings of the book are still valid. I'm happy sending it out, but I have not applied into the book all that we've learned since, say, let's just say March of 2020. Roughly just over a year ago. I haven't applied all that we've learned. So I think the book is valid, but it needs work at this point, and I just haven't had the time. At some point, I do need to just take 2 weeks or so and not be able to do any emails or anything like that, and just update the book. Or if there are a few sections that simply don't apply to how reality works, to remove those sections. For example, the whole notion of people being asked to board the love boat, the ship of fools in the river of insanity, and sailing down with reality itself shifting, reality itself moving into a new place. That is what the whole term new normal is about to me. It is a new normal. Many of these things are completely normal to people because the reality is actually shifted there. To me, for the few people that are new here, it's beyond, like, people can be brainwashed into anything and mind control. No, it's beyond that. it's the reality itself is morphing. I really believe that. All the evidence to me point to that. And in my example was we stand on the bank as it sails away. We're rooted to some older place. And I believe we can do that because we're attached to a spiritual tether of some kind, or we haven't lost that aspect. Those that are just sailing down the river are kind of losing that aspect. The more that I see of this, the more it seems that I don't really agree. Well, I do and I don't. I was going to say the concept of the NPC. I was going to say, to me, it seems like more the people around us, like more degraded humans that are just very, very happy to give themselves up and to move to wherever just they're on the ship. They'll sail and be gladly sail wherever the ship wants to go, wherever reality itself wants to go. Or this I was kind of getting a sense of this about 2 years ago when I was talking about giving up soul tokens, and a lot of people didn't. Some people kind of like that, but some people that are pretty knowledgeable said that's not. They didn't love that analogy, but I think that was kind of the first sniff of where this was going. People giving up pieces of themselves, or you could say in the analogy, just agreeing to board the demonic inverted love boat. Isaac is like you go to get a drink from Isaac with little umbrellas. He's like a two-headed monster. And one says, "Let me serve you a drink." And Julie comes up instead of trying to see if you're on the cabin roster list, or she'll try to suck blood from your wrist. So it's like people are just freely getting on board that boat, but they don't see anything wrong with it. Of course, they're not like, "Oh, I've got to go along with everything," and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to do." People aren't like, "I don't want to do this," and they're not only accepting of it, it is the new normal to them. They're completely agreeable to it, and in my opinion is because they're allowing themselves just to morph into wherever the reality is going, the ship is sailing. They don't see anything wrong with it. It is the new normal to them. So my personal take on the question is, when I sit there and really think about it, and as much as my take is I wouldn't go back. Okay, but let me explore that in detail. As much as I sit there and say, I can see what's coming. The two classes of citizen has already started. What was it? Somebody emailed me something about, I think it was an attendance at a stadium. It's already started, and of course, this is where it's going. And because people can't even recognize right from wrong, or these were tactics employed in Nazi Germany, they can't even recognize certain aspects. They're just, to them, this is the new normal. They'll go along with it. There won't be anybody in the normie community that stands up and says, for these people that aren't willing to rent the movie Action Jackson, you can't treat people like this. No one's going to stand up in that herd community. So you can see where it's going. Somebody sent me something where the attendance to a certain sporting event was limited. If you have not rented the movie, if you have not taken that movie off the 99-cent counter and kept it for 3 days, be kind, rewind, then only a certain percentage of you people can come into the stadium. I don't know what country this is, but a lot of countries are far more advanced than the United States in terms of their tracing and apps and things like that. People showing, I guess, with the worst being Israel, the worst being Israel, where you it's right there. I mean, you just everybody's phone, you get a color code. So this is the group. Isn't this the country that shouldn't have anybody that shouldn't be doing those sorts of things? See, it's so you got to laugh at it. You just have to laugh at it. There's one country, guys. If you've been here more than a few weeks, there is no one country to blame and point at. It is absurd, and the truth community still does that. It's a one world system. If they make the presentation that this little group of bad people are doing it, well, then that's what they want you to believe. It's a one world system, and the org chart goes higher. We can't even see the creepy thing at the top of the org chart. It's not the people running around in the names that you recognize. But, so the two classes has already started, and you see where this is going. And people like, I'll just say certain relatives are already running the scripts. As soon as the scripts hit the airwaves, then the people run the scripts. And I was talking about, well, is this part of the family ever going to get together? Or, because I said, I'm not going to rent the movie. I haven't been going around to the Blockbuster stores looking through the 99-cent bins. I'm not going to ever do it. Unless somebody comes in, throws me down, and then if they ever invade your sovereignty to that degree, I've said you've already won. How do you know you've already won? Because you've just declared it. They can't cross that line. You've already won. This world you have to doom yourself. So then the script comes back. Well, you're not gonna rent the movie, and here's the script. Well, a certain level of herd immunity needs to be achieved. Oh, where'd you hear that one? Did you memorize that bullet point, or did somebody put a script into your hand? Or did you. And someone would say, well, Matt, you keep talking about a download and the running of scripts. It might not be when somebody simply watches the news and believes the news. Okay, right, but it's more than that. I think most people listening to this would generally agree. It's more than that. It's not just that this relative happened to watch the news, and of course the news and the Ministry of Information is going to push that out and keep using words like herd immunity, and people will sure that's what they're doing, but it's almost unnatural. It's like 100 monkeys thing. It's almost like, I don't know, it's to me, I mean, for a lot of reasons, I'm never gonna, well, not never, but for now, I firmly believe in the download, in the running of scripts, in the actual rewiring of the brain using the cell phone, not just people watching the news believing it and then just calling out what they remember about being able to achieve a certain percentage of herd immunity. It just happens as soon as the Ministry of Information puts something out, or you can see the way that the reality wants to go in the next phase, everybody starts just going right along with it, running the same scripts. So that's, of course, I got that back in the first minute of me, discussing, is this part of the family ever going to get together? We're just going to, a lot of you are in your 70s, you got an extra decade to wait. I'm in 50. We're all, look, this time doesn't exist. We're all this, when you step back and look down at this existence outside the snow globe, it's the equivalent of like 1/1000th or 1/1,000,000th of a second. I mean, there's no difference between me being 50 and somebody saying you're going to die soon because you're in your 70s. Some in their 70s will die. From the cosmic equivalent, I'll be dead a second later or a millisecond later. It doesn't matter. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Someone that's 25 or 30 or 35, they've got a lot that they have left to do, that they explore for themselves, things, or even fun things that they have to do. But I'm just saying it. You can't say some of these things to certain family members. Just saying, well, you kind of want to give them a hint that you're kind of old, dude. You want to you should be the ones that don't want to wait it out. You don't have a lot of time left, and I'm not saying I don't either. We don't. It's all blink. It doesn't matter. But you know what I'm saying? Like, how much time you got, dude? You want to wait it out? You want to do another year where there's no family stuff? And so, but it's just the running of scripts. Oh, Matt's not going to rent the movie, so he's contributing to not achieving herd level immunity. I mean, anyway, So guys, that's all. All of that is coming, and the dial, the intensity dial. I still believe it. If you look back at past events, guys, how they at some point they have to back off. The reality resets to a certain level, much lower towards the abyss, but then it will, per their astrology, just like 7-Eleven, it'll coast. It'll start to coast out. The dust settles. They've achieved a new reality where it's just completely normal to show your phone to get into a stadium or something that shows your green level. Or, oh my gosh, and I guess they would have emergency buses lined up along the event for those that try to get in that haven't rented the movie. They could immediately be whisked off into the bus, or maybe quarantined. Who knows? But but then even if they try to say they'll introducing the chip under the skin, where you'll be able to get into an NFL game by saying, I can prove I rented the movie just from this chip, and I'm tired of showing my phone. That's just a slight, to me, that's not just them keeping the pedal to the metal. That's just a one little variation on the reality that they already created. So I can it's and even though I think at some point it has to coast out and they can't go pedal to the metal forever. They've gone up far longer than I ever thought they could, and most people ever thought they could. It's still, it's not going to get worse in the huge leaps and bounds that we've seen. We just can't understand what's happened. I mean, nobody even in this community could have predicted this level. It's just literally we live in a surreal Twilight Zone episode. There's no other way to describe it. So it's not going to get any better. It'll get worse, but just incrementally so, not in these huge jumps the way we've seen. It's just, I think that's the way they have to do business per their astrology and their Saturn returns and their 20-year conjunctions and how they have to do business. So in terms of saying would you go back, I still wouldn't go back, because first of all, I didn't do any of that stuff anyway. I didn't. Yeah, it's really kind of. I really at this point I miss, because you miss it because you can't have it. I miss that. Oh my gosh, I might never in my life be able to go to an NFL game or just go see a baseball game or go see a concert or. So when it's taken away, it becomes more valuable. In a sense, I want to say, I'm not going to go rent the movie or anything, but I want to be able to do that. But if I think about it logically, Matt, did you do that stuff anyway for the last 8 or 10 years? No, I didn't do it anyway. But that's just me being a hermit or recluse, and that was unhealthy too. I should do more things with more people, but I didn't do it anyway. But even a lot of people that did those activities, and if they're not going to rent the movie, are going to be severely hampered in intermixing with groups, and they're very social people. We've learned too much to go back. I would not go back under any circumstance. I would not, and because again, you'd go back still knowing about, we still would know about 95% of the fraud, but in terms of what ultimately, reality itself is capable of morphing into a certain place, and the true role of the minions, and how what has happened in the last 12 to 14 months has really given us an incredible sense of who we are. I wouldn't give that up. Absolutely not. I mean, I would not give it up under any circumstance. If Matt, if they are able to keep pedal to the metal, and in 1 year, you can't leave the house. You have to get Amazon delivery for everything. You have to call giant food stores, giant delivers, and the guy in the truck will be so terrified to come down the driveway, he'll just throw the package of food and meat at the end of the driveway, and then I won't even know it was delivered, so it'll sit out there in August and bake and become rancid, and the bugs will get in. I'm like shooing the flies away because I need the food. And I mean, if it gets to the point, I leave my house and speakers go off, like a Megan's Law alert that Matt has left the house. There's somebody who has rented the movie that's now moving about the community. I don't care. I don't care, because I put this existence into perspective. All right, that is one of the things the last 12 to 14 months has given me, as absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. That doesn't mean I want to go jump off a bridge or something. We're here. If some axe murderer came in here now, I'd try to find weapons. Of course, I'd try to protect my life. We're in the Avatar. This is very natural. There's still, about 2 things I want to do before I depart this world. But you see, it's just nothing. It's just keep back up and back up and back up and back up and back up, and this little incarnation in this snow globe where these minions run around trying to control everything, and they got their yachts, and what a joke, an absolute joke. To give up, I mean, just in the appendix of the book, someone asked me, they went and were listening to the chapters that are still on YouTube, saying 2 were missing, and I pulled them myself because there was some copyrighted material or even some images, and I was worried about the channel at certain points, and I've deleted videos, and there was a strike. But the first conversation after a failed life is in the appendix of the book, and the last conversation you had before incarnating is also in the appendix in the PDF. So it's in the back, and I would change those chapters a bit, knowing what I know now. But for the most part, they still stand. Tony, in the know, Tony has stressed to me that if there's one, like two or three, four things to remember, one of the key things to remember is you agreed to come here. He's given me a lot of insight on things, but he says one of the things to remember, you agreed to come here. So just use your inner knowing. I mean, again, to anybody watching this, the atheist position is just absurd. That doesn't mean you're of a certain religion, or you have to be Christian, or you have to be Hindu, or is of Muslim, of Islam. Or it doesn't mean. It just means it doesn't mean you have to then attach to a religion. It just means that you can see that there's just no possible way life sprung about at random, by the Big Bang, and it's just so absurd. Then there's no other alternative, that you were, of course, in existence before this incarnation. It's almost obvious at this point. You can feel it in every. So if that's the case, and whether you believe you agreed to come here, some people would say you were tricked to come here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if you were tricked to come here, and if you along those belief sets, then those belief sets support, arguments I've had with several people. Not arguments, just polite exchanges of opinion about whether there's consequence here by taking certain actions, consequence attached. And I still believe there is consequence attached, but that's not the purpose of this video. And oh boy, you go on and you lose your train of thought. So I guess I was saying, if you really sense you were in existence before this incarnation, and it's not, we all can. It doesn't even, even if you're not involved in any religion, you just sense that, just know that. Then, you could see, if you backed up far enough, that the incarnation would be a joke. It would be like the equivalent of 1/1000th of a second. So to make decisions inside, you imagine that, like, if I should work that into the first conversation after a failed life, or a failed incarnation. Someone say, "You dumbass mother effer, you made decisions. Think about it, you dumbass. Look at this." The spotlights would go on, and all the spirits and whoever, angels or whatever you believe, would be roaring in laughter. This dumbass made decisions in thinking this little incarnation inside this little snow globe. Look it's so far away. That stupid ass thing made decisions that could doom their existence, could denigrate their spiritual essence, or put their soul in a wrong place, or agree to Horcrux it off, leave a piece of it there. Excuse me, Horcrux it off, or leave the trolls. The trolls will be they'll be screenshotting and breaking down those gestures. I need to address the trolls. It just keeps coming and coming. But they'd say, you didn't. Now that you're here, you can see that existence was like 1/1000th of a second. So you can see how absurd it was to make decisions that would benefit your place or standing in that incarnation, versus what you really did recognize, or should have recognized, your ultimate standing as part of something that always has been and always will be, is a joke. So, but the people on the ship of fools in the river of insanity, they can't understand it. I'm not going to talk to relatives and even go down there and say, you could be, we don't know exactly what, I'm still one to say, let me back up. I'm still one to say, if you rent the movie, is that damn your soul? No, I mean, who knows? But I'm saying, I don't know. I don't know the karma that's attached to it, or the soul token that's attached to it. I don't know if the society forces you to do it because you need to put food on the table for little kids, to keep your job, where you, through intention, can overcome those types of consequences, if they exist at all. I'm just saying, if they do exist at all, they would exist for me, because of almost anybody who could refuse it, it would be me, as of right now. If they make it so you can't get food without it, well, then there's a new decision to be made. And then are we being forced? And does through the through the idea of being forced and the the intention of a powerful being, could that be whatever negative attachment that would come with that, or related to karma or whatever, could that be overcome? As we've floated, if anybody's forced to do it to keep their job because they have a family or whatever that might be, but there would be no excuse or no way to overcome that with intention for someone like me, because at least for now, I do this full time. You don't see me too often with a new sweatshirt, but people contribute monthly, covers my bills, and I have no little kids. I have 4 cats, and if there's one person that should be able to say no to it, so if you want to have the argument that there's consequence of this reality is about dooming yourself and having you choose to do it to yourself, I think there is a difference versus choosing to do it to yourself versus being forced into it. I don't think it can have the same effect on people if people are forced, whether it be the renting of the movie or any decision that they're forced into, because society has put a lot of choices in a box. There's not a lot of options for a lot of people in certain areas. I mean, if it's pretty hard to go off grid if you find yourself awake in the middle of a city somewhere with 3 kids. I mean, still the water has to turn on, the lights have to go on. And we're not born into this incarnation with full understanding. It happens over time. So, you understand what I'm saying, guys. We'll just go round and round. I think there is consequence. I'm still sticking to that. And but the main point in this video is I wouldn't go back. I've just learned too much. All that matters is learning about yourself, what about yourself, and the true nature of ourselves. Just learned too much. I don't care if, Matt, see where this is going? You won't be able to leave the house. They'll be rolling the canned goods down to you. Nobody will even come close. You might have an ankle bracelet when you leave, so the community knows you're out and about. I don't care. By my heel, I care not. I've learned too much about myself. The one thing on my list was just I would like to see the Great Pyramid at some point at Giza, or the other one that's pretty much the same size, but the one's great, one's not. Wars not make one great, young Skywalker. I don't know, why isn't the other one great? Whatever. I can see why the third one's not great. It's the smaller one, but I would like to, it's got to be incredible to coming around the crowded, sweaty bus in Egypt, and you're around the corner, and then there it is, like right, it's just got to be incredible, absolutely incredible. You can do a 4K guy's walking tour. We don't have to go anywhere anymore with these 4K walking tours. If you have a good internet connection, look up 4K walking tour of Venice, 4K walking tour of Red Square in Russia. It's a vacation in of itself. You line up a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon, turn the lights out, and I was going to say a few things. It's just crude, and there's no reason to go there. But you can walk through Red Square. It's incredible, the level of detail. It's 4K. It's incredible. So I've done that with Giza, and even you get it with 4K. You get a sense as to how incredible that is. I would have liked to have done that. Sit up on a ledge like in the bucket list, Jack Nicholson with Morgan Freeman. But hey, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So what? I'll visit it astrally someday. So guys, there's no way I would go back. No way. And see, but I guess the most important point is it's not just that. If you come to the conclusion and you really think this through, that you would not go back. You've just learned too much about how reality itself works and how you fit into it, and about yourself. Then what does that tell you? It tells you shouldn't be upset at anything going on. That's the mindset. I should have said that earlier. That was the whole point of this video. That's the mindset. We're always like, all of us are doing it. Like, the 2 classes of citizen. Only so many people can get into this stadium. Oh, NASCAR's running in Darlington, South Carolina. Are they checking renting of the movie status for that? Well, probably NASCAR, probably not this year, but next year. Then we're like, oh no, I can't do that. It's so terrible. But if you come to the conclusion that you wouldn't go back, and you completely had the power to reset reality back, and you still would say, no, I wouldn't do it, then from the cosmic perspective, from what's 100 trillion times more important than little, little menial pleasures in this, and what's that, Red Dragon? Walk with me for my pleasure. Little pleasures in this life, then I wouldn't, if you truly would not go back, then you can't be upset at anything. I mean, I guess you'd say, yeah, I'd still would want to go to see a concert or whatever, and it's not, if they're just gonna, they don't even let me go to the grocery store anymore. But you can't. It puts a whole new level of perspective on that. It's like, okay, this exists, but because this exists, I've won. Now, I've won from, then I'm working on my higher self to say, get us out of this friggin' game. Like Tony would say, I'm going to work on my higher self. We don't need to do this anymore. Okay, they turned the dial up. In turning the dial up for whatever they needed to do per the yin and yang. It just, the information and knowledge poured into us. We've, who knows how many, those that believe in reincarnation, or even a matrix soul trap, and they're going to try to convince you to jump back into a body, and a life review and all that. Even people that go there, you would, almost all these groups would have to agree that, if we need to do this a bunch of times, for, again, depending on your belief set of Buddhism, of course, the tens of thousands of reincarnations, Hinduism, and even if you're not religious, the matrix soul trapper, waking up to certain things because of what they did. What if that saves 1,000 lifetimes, if this is your belief set? Obviously, this is not a Christian belief set. What if it, I'm of the notion that for some reason these creeps need to turn the dial up so much. Maybe that was their role. Matt, you don't understand. This is their time in history to turn the dial up, so the awakened could understand themselves. Okay, for whatever it is. But, again, you emerge into that crowded room, the first conversation after a failed life, and all the souls and spirits, or if you believe that, angels, are all laughing at you and say, you dumbass mother, if you would have made the right choices, just understand about yourself, not keep trying to Horcrux parts of yourself into, people get on me about the soul token, making choices, giving up soul tokens. That is the Harry Potter concept of Horcrux. Horcruxing pieces of, in the movie, Voldemort Horcrux pieces of his soul into certain items, representations of the material plane, representations of this place. He didn't hide his soul in the astral or off. He hid it in Ravenclaw's lost item, into things that people, a jewel, a gem, people would covet here. I don't think that shit's by coincidence. Vanessa VA talks about how music itself, without the artist being aware of it, just there's a carrier message that can come over the music to the spiritually awakened. A carrier where there's, we used to think or argue or just contemplate 6 months ago. I was always on the side that most of the time the artists are not aware of this at all. But now it's like 100%. The artists are not aware of it, just completely not aware of it. The message that you could get from what you may call God, or what you may call higher self, or source, or whatever, that comes through music, and there's a carrier wave on the music, just like the movie Contact with Jodie Foster. It's just primes. How many primes is that? 100. But so there's some. And Kent comes in, who was blind. He's like, there's more shit here. Put it on. Then there's a carrier where there's a wave. So a certain, this could be a huge truth drop in the movie Contact. Probably is. Without the see, it's a truth to us. The person that put it together, Jodie Foster, the producer, the director that was hanging out with Harvey Weinstein, they're not aware they're putting some message in that we then can use to understand the truth of this reality. They have no clue. That's becoming clearer and clearer. But as a carrier wave on music, if you just think about the way some of these artists. Now, again, it's probably not all or none. I don't mean to go all or none. But it does kind of get back to a degree of the conversation where these creeps and these minions, they also, it's not just they're out to satisfy themselves. They also, or at least some of them might understand, they're here to play a role to actually benefit in some way the spiritually awakened, and almost like to stay in business, they have to float potentially certain things. So in this case, they would know those things are being floated. Just what comes to mind is live throwing copper. Have I ever really broke down what that's all about? That's I alone love you. Lightning crashes. You know that shit. So we followed them. They're from York, Pennsylvania. So we saw them all over Philadelphia in say 94, 95, about that time. And so the title is called, it's always the case, there's always this esoteric element or occult element. If you just think who these bands are, just these young guys that they're not going to know this stuff. And I haven't looked into it, but it's called Throwing Copper. The alchemical, I mean, of course, it all ties in like that. And I don't know, I don't even, at this point, I'm even struggling to even think of what copper, what planet it's associated with. Would it be Venus? I believe Mars is iron. It doesn't matter. For example, Mercury's Mercury. That sort of thing. But it's all done for that reason. So it doesn't really matter. If you're commenting on that, what that's all about. You just see that just a bunch of kids in a band. They're not going to have these types of constant alchemical references and as above so below truth drops in their music. And I'd love to, if I had nothing else to do, I'd love to take months and months and look at music very, very carefully and trace it like that. But for now, all I can do is go to my same examples, which the one that I guess the most glaring example for me is the Sarah McLachlan. Is it Surfacing? It's just riddled. Building a Mystery, I think, is the first, and I've talked about it before. She didn't have a clue of course there's a chance. Matt, you don't understand the bloodlines these people, some of them, sure. Jimmy Page could be associated with, yeah, of course. And some of the degenerate offspring of some of these bloodlines, well, he's not really ready to take over the family business here, and the family business is rather important. It's the family business is in charge of controlling the first 100 of the Fortune 500, all these corporations under the family. He ain't ready for that. It's like Billy Madison trying to take over the company, trying to get through first grade through 12th grade, and then he does that debate with the other guy vying for the company. So what are we going to do with this guy? Yeah, what we do with all of them. Make him a rock and roller. That'll keep him occupied. Just put him, but then we'll put our alchemical shit into his music. Or, Sarah McLachlan, she could come from one of these connections or whatever, but in my opinion, obviously, they don't all, most don't, and there's always some sort of, the amount of what we're seeing, the amount of, I don't know how to describe it, the elemental symbolism, alchemical symbolism, esoteric meanings, as above, so below, occult references that comes through these albums is just never ending. You can find something in almost every major album. And in my opinion, almost no case the artist is aware of it. Anyway, guys, so if you believe, you just, maybe you shouldn't be making that decision just watching this video. You should sit by yourself for 20 minutes or whatever, meditate on it, and just say, would you go back? And you'd have to give back everything you've learned about yourself. And I think most of you would be like where I am. No, wouldn't go back. By my heel, I care not. Do what you need to do to me. And it's not that bad. I mean, it's not the Inquisition where Vlad the Impaler's coming around the mountain and he's got stakes and with the torture, and it's not that. What's so bad? Like, I can't go to the NFL and mix with people. They're going to make me show my phone, and I don't even carry a smartphone. Oh no, it's not so bad. I mean, again, guys, talked about the simple pleasures that even, past generations, just standing in the damn shower, go, oh, what do we want for dinner? Thai, Vietnamese, we could have Mexican, we could have fast food, we could have human meat served over at the McD's. We could have all these choices in food. This is unfat. You go to Wegmans. Wegmans, I still just marvel. You go to Wegmans and there's just aisles of prepared food, aisle of cakes and brownies and food, buffet foods, and just, they throw out. I always wonder at night where it goes. You never see these huge trucks at midnight going down to the homeless shelters. Never see it. It's a damn shame. But this would be to King Louis the whatever, or King George the whatever, cousin to Tsar whatever. They're all, how's that work? No one ever talks about how's it King George the First related to Tsar Nicholas? How they were cousins? Well, how wasn't Russia like a completely separate country? How nobody ever talks about that. Bring that up for Thanksgiving, just a conspiracy theorist asshole. I mean, how does that work? That proves by itself they're all coming from the same degenerate seed. By itself, it proves that. So these people, they were the top of they couldn't stand under a damn shower. They couldn't go to Wegmans and be like, they had some, the chef prepared the food, a boar, for example, just some potato on the side with some grease poured over it and some spices. Now that's a whole lot better. Could fill your belly and go get with your harem or whatever. This is better than what most people have. But you take one of these poor bastards and you take them into Wegmans today, like it's a stack of chicken wings. A stack of chicken wings. And the place is 5 minutes from closing. Well, what's going to happen to these chicken wings? Guys, it ain't so bad. All right? It ain't so bad. And again, you get out of here, you're like, oh my gosh, look at that little tiny snow globe where I incarnated. I made decisions and choices in that thing that would potentially almost horcrux pieces of myself just for my pleasure. And you'll kick yourself. You'll be like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I said, I just wanted to take 5 minutes at the end here to address the trolls. They come after me with the same things over and over again. It is beyond pathetic. But, I don't know what other channels you guys watch, and obviously I have nothing to hide, so I just want to explain when this stuff comes up, because they'll position it in a way that, ooh, Matt could be nefarious. It's absurd, and anybody that would do this or look into my past trying to find something, really, it's as low as it gets, and I don't know why anybody would sub to a channel like that. I'm not going to mention any names. When you'll come across it from time to time. That's what happens when you get the amount of attention, I guess, that this channel is now getting. So the first pathetic thing that I want to get out of the way is some have actually said, well, he had insurance websites. Matt actually tried to make a living? You tried to make a living in the past to try to pay a mortgage, pay car payments? Yeah. See, I've always been in the insurance business, and I was so dying to get out of the cubicle big insurance that I started to do my own thing in 2007. And then to attract business, I have different insurance websites where I sold products. That's how I put food on the table. So I'm not going to spend too much time there. But see, all of these where they come after me are all related to Matt actually wanting to make a living. Okay, let's move past that. The big one is, this one comes up more than any other. Matt was on the Alex Jones show. Yes and no. I was on the David Knight show, which was a show on the Alex Jones channel, promoting my book, Texas Shrugged, about Texas secession. Let me tell you how that worked. Again, Matt just wanting to put food on the table to make a living to promote his book that he just spent 7 or 8 months writing. So what happened was this. In 2012, Obama beat Romney. Now, I wasn't born out of the womb with full truth or knowledge, and the doctor picked my infant self up and it glowed. We all progress. At this time, I was watching Alex Jones. We all progressed through the animal farms. Is there anything new here? I wasn't born out of the womb with full truth or knowledge. So 2012, Obama beat Romney, and then all this talk started. You may remember that, oh, Texas isn't going to put up with this. There's no way that could be real. Texas is going to secede. So I wrote a book about it. If Texas was going to secede, how would it happen? Complete fiction, fictional characters. And at that time, I guess I started writing in 2013, early 2013. I didn't know how the world worked. I voted for Romney, believed in elections. Again, we all progress. So I watched Alex Jones at the time. So why would it be such an evil thing to try to go? If Alex Jones himself would have asked me to be a guest, I would have, of course, gone on. I watched it at the time. Didn't understand Alex Jones' role at the time, 2013, 8 years ago. So David Knight, so we're going to talk about Texas. Is Texas ever going to make a move to secede? And what you do is very simple. You can go on their website, info or articles or whatever, or news, and I hit all their websites or all their email addresses and said, hey, I just wrote a book about Texas secession. So the producer contacted me that you wrote a book about Texas secession. We're going to be talking about that. Do you want to talk about it? The book with Alex Jones, no, with David Knight. Well, what would anybody say? Well, someday in the future, I might understand what the role of this program is. No. Oh, yeah, I just wrote a book. I wanted to promote it. I wanted to leave my insurance business desperately. The insurance is like, you want to talk about life drain. It was not. It was not a fun thing to go to work in the morning. Insurance, okay? So of course I would have done anything to get out of insurance, become an author, whatever. Turned out I'm a pretty good writer. So that's that. Why wouldn't I go on the David Knight Show to promote my book? Lastly, now this has come up recently, Matt was on Fox News. No, but yes. Fox Business with the Varney Company. This was about 7 years ago. Fox Business. All right? Again, same thing. Varney company announces that the end of the week or next week we're going to do a show on, is college necessary? And a big theme at the time was no, it's overpriced and it's not even necessary. So at the time, I just happened to be starting a class, again, doing everything I can to find an alternative way to make money, to get out of insurance. I started a class that was it was a college prep class because the theme behind the class, and it never got off the ground, guys, it failed, but the theme was college doesn't teach you anything you can use in life. This class is necessary to teach your kids how to balance their checkbook, or how to not fall for a phishing scam. All the stuff that college won't teach you, the more important life skills this class will teach you. So I created a website. So then same thing. You go, and it's harder to do this now. You can't just go to their website, contact their producers. It was easier 7 or 8 years ago. I contacted their producers, sent a bunch of emails around saying, I have a class that basically says college doesn't teach you anything you can use, and you need to learn these life skills. Producer contacted me back, said, do you want to be a guest? Now, what would you do? No, I don't want to be a guest because at some point, someday I'm going to learn that Fox is really, really just a part of the evil cabal controlled opposition just to keep this group of conservatives pacified. See, I didn't realize that at the time, 7 years ago. I wasn't born out of the womb with full truth or knowledge. We progressed. So, of course, I went on to promote my class. And the whole point of the whole show was basically college is overpriced and ain't worth it. So the theme was pretty just anyway. It wasn't like I was there pushing Bard College. Yeah, liberal, Vassar, Wesleyan, and Bard. Yeah, Vassar, Wesleyan, Bard. The $55,000 a year is worth it. It wasn't that anyway. It was like college is bullshit. So why wouldn't I want to go on any platform to talk about that? Forget how the interview went. I was nervous as heck, and I actually remember. I even showed my channel this, saying I was on. So, and I think it was the old Texas Shrug channel. The point is, guys, first of all, to troll somebody, to look into their past, to try to find things, you know how sick that is. If anybody has a beef with what I'm saying, this is completely legitimate. Saying Matt, in terms of the words coming out of his mouth, he's misleading people because he's talking about fluid reality, and even I will even justify this. I mean, it would be a justified somebody coming back or saying not like what I'm saying Matt talks about fluid reality, or we live in a matrix, and Elon Musk says the same thing, so Matt must be some sort of controlled opposition, and he's saying some of the same things that Neil deGrasse Tyson's saying, and at least that's somewhat legitimate. Of course, I could explain why they do that. That the minions will float similar ideas of what many of us are putting out when we're getting close to the truth to taint the idea itself. But that's neither here nor there. But so it's never about what I say. It's never about, in the last video, Matt said this, and do you see what a manipulation or deception that was? Never that stuff. Never. It's never about what I say. It's like oh, let's look into Matt's past and just float for a second that he was on the Alex Jones show, or float for a second that he was on Varney and Company, Fox Business. Yeah, promoting stuff where he's trying to make a living to get out of the insurance business, but it's just enough where some people might like, oh yeah, I should be a little skeptical of him. See, it's very low, very low. You have a beef with me, let's have it out. Let's talk it through. Let's see who comes out on the right side on the issues and the ideas. But to look into someone's past and to float it, to put a little doubt out. You want to talk about trolling? Sick, absolutely sick. I've addressed it, and pretty easy to address. Nobody's hiding up here. My name is Matt McKinley. Everybody, I can be found in the yellow pages. I'm not one of these truth channels that just hides behind a name, an avatar. Put myself out for almost, probably if you include the other channel, probably close to 9 years now. Ain't hiding from anybody, and happy to address the issues with anybody.